This may be a long show because got a lot to cook on, because I got a lot to say about some of these narratives, especially the leadership thing. What are your thoughts on leadership in the Black community? And I want the Black men to hear this out. Before you guys judge, you got to understand something. When you guys ask me, who do you think is more responsible? I don't think the necessary question is who's the most responsible. It's simply who needs the most help. Who needs the most help right now? And by every measure, economic measure, relationship measure in the Black community, it's Black women. But it's definitely a great question, because I've learned that the whole "you guys are supposed to be the leaders of the community" statement is used as an insult to justify the continuance of the majority of Black women's subpar behavior. I know that. But in saying that, I also understand that Black men are the most responsible. Let me explain. Me saying that we're responsible doesn't mean that the majority of our women in our community aren't responsible for contributing to their relationship issues that we're experiencing. Because I think we can all agree that Black women have been marching to the beat of their own drum for a while now. But I say that Black men are more responsible because as leaders, when there's a problem, what happens? It is our responsibility to find solutions. I understand that in order to be an effective leader, the people that you're tasked to lead have to be willing to follow. If you relinquish that responsibility, then that means you've given up the right to implement corrective measures. So if you're Black men saying that Black women are more responsible, then understand that you're giving them power to find solutions. And I don't think you all want that, right? Subconsciously, Black men have already taken responsibility, because that's why you see more Black men voicing their frustrations in present day as an attempt to level set the conversation on who Black men actually are. At least that's what I'm trying to do. Discussing the issues that Black men have with Black women are a necessary evil so we can move forward in good faith. But in order to do that, Black women as a whole, or a significant majority, would have to be open to accepting the truth about Black men. But currently, they're not. It feels good to be on top. Think about it. During the last 5 to 6 decades, Black women have been conditioned to believe that they make more money than Black men because they have more college degrees. They own more businesses than Black men. Being a single mother is better than raising a child in a 2-parent household. And the majority of the good Black men are dead, broke, gay, or in prison. If all of that was true, they'd have every right to disrespect and or look down on the men that are supposed to lead them. How Black women view Black men is based off lies. So if it took 5 to 6 decades to convince Black women that they're better than their male counterparts, realistically, it will probably take another 5 or 6 decades for them to unlearn what they have learned. So the conversation that we're having now isn't for today's generation, it's for the generations to come. And depending on how Black women respond to this feedback from Black men now, will determine how Black men's solutions affect them in the future. What are some of those solutions? I'll give you 2 corrective actions that have already taken place right under the Black community's nose. The popular Black demographics marriage statistic that states that 33% of Black men are married and 27% of Black women are married. The Pew Research Center just published a new research report titled Key Facts About the Nation's 47.9 million Black Americans on January 18, 2024. And they found that 36% of Black men, which is a 3% increase since the numbers were last reported, and 29% of Black women are currently married, which is a 2% increase. But that's not the most important thing. Out of the 5.9 million married Black men, 21% of those men are now married to women of other races. That's 1 in 5, which is unheard of since Black women are 50% responsible for us being able to interracially marry during the 1967 Loving versus Virginia case, which involved a Black woman by the name of Mildred Jeter and the white man, Richard Loving. Since the court struck down the state laws that ban marriage between individuals of different races, black men have seemingly capitalized off the ruling to get where we stand now. The second solution, ironically, is the passport bros. And I know it sounds crazy because black women and a significant amount of black men consider those guys undesirable black men. But even if that were true, that small percentage of around, let's say 3 to 5% of passport bros leaving directly affects black women because black men marry you all the most, which currently sits at 79% of married black men. So, removing any percentage of the 48% of never married black men decreases the pool of marriageable and available black men for our women. And even if the passport bros don't marry foreign women and they're simply leaving the States for a better lifestyle or a more positive dating experience, that means that those black men are unavailable to black women. And with more men in general opting out of marriage, it's going to seem like every other race of women has caught a cold in the form of marriage numbers slightly decreasing, while black women consistently catch the flu. But also, I've gone on record in saying this, that 3 out of 4 black women will never marry based off the statistics and the conversations that I've had with American black women. My conclusion is that 3 out of 4 black women don't want, well, unless it's in some form of new age partnership that black women heard or described in which no sensible man would ever agree to. The black community has to start acknowledging their decision to forego marriage and start trying to create ways to help black women in the future. Because financially, and if you reference the McKinsey report, the economic state of black America, it specifically highlights black women and the financial troubles that they're likely to face by 2030. But as long as we keep lying to black women, the same things are going to continue to happen. And the funny thing is, it's not just people lying to black women. It's the narratives that keep popping up from years past. Y'all remember that song by Ice Cube, The Ninja You Love to Hate? Y'all remember that song? That came out March 1990. I was 10 years old, going on 11 when I first heard him say,
shit called street knowledge. Why more niggas in the pen than in college? Because of that line, I might be your cellmate. That's from the nigga you love to hate.
Fast forward 34 years to present day, and I just seen a black woman who runs a page titled Black Marriage Movement. She commented, and I quote, "Prison industrial complex has more black men in jail than in college. Those are real numbers. We aren't making this up. And those would have been eligible men. Women would have wanted families with black women if they weren't in the system." 34 years later, our women are quoting false statistics as if they were true.
Now we'd like to take a critical look at a piece of conventional wisdom that you've probably heard more than once. You might have heard this in a movie. You might have heard this from a politician. You might have heard this from a TV pundit. But you've probably heard that there are more African-American men in jail than in college. Even then candidate Barack Obama talked about this at an NAACP candidate forum back in 2007.
We have more work to do when more young black men languish in prison than attend colleges and universities across America.
Now that's a powerful image, but is that really true? Something our next guest has taken a look at. Ivory Toldson is an associate professor at Howard University School of Education. He wrote about this for TheRoot.com, and he says,
"It's wrong. There are 1.4 million black men in college right now, and there are about 840,000 black men in prison."
That is a huge difference.
Yeah.
Now, is that because those numbers were always wrong, or are there more black men in college now than in prison now?
I believe they were always wrong, and there is some debate about that. The citation of that stat came from the Justice Policy Institute's report, Cell Blocks versus Classroom, which they wrote in 2002. When they analyzed the data, they looked at the National Center for Education Statistics head count of black men in college and compared that to the Department of Justice count of inmates at the time. And they came up with almost 100,000 more black men in prison than in college. Now, what's transpired since then is there's been more than a 100% increase in the number of black men in college as reported by the National Center for Education Statistics. And so what I did was I pulled the data from 2001 that the Justice Policy Institute used, and I noticed that at least 1,000 colleges weren't reporting their head count of black males then. And I also noticed that a lot of colleges that didn't report any numbers when Justice Policy Institute wrote their report were historically black universities, that were big state universities that I'm pretty sure had some black males present at the time.
So that's why I say I don't think black women are in position to even acknowledge the fact that black men are doing well. We are doing better than them in those areas that they always mention. And it goes back to my point. It feels good to be pandered to, but it's not going to help y'all in the future. It's not going to help y'all in the long run. And those men are doing more damage to y'all than you can ever imagine. Because if you're content with your position right now and you have those type of men telling you that you're good to go, then you're going to get complacent and you're not going to do anything to improve. And it's going to show in the marriage reports and also financially. So this is the time that black women need to start speaking up and talking to one another and seek the truth, because this is not going to end well. And then you're going to be looking to those guys that pander to you for the men that's supposed to, marry you. And there is none, because they don't attend those little meetings that these guys have. So think about that before y'all go out there and start trying to, talk mess about black men. I mean, it seems like y'all trying your best to run them away. And you still got dummies like me sitting there trying to protect the black community and help y'all. I get so much pushback about that, man. Why do you even care? And I'm still holding on to a sliver of hope. And it seems like it's falling on deaf ears. And it's sad, but I got to try and do my part. So I love black people. That's all it is, man. Trying to help.